Chapter 1. The City That Stopped Breathing. Ravenfall City never slept. Even at 2 a.m., cars filled the streets, cafes glowed with warm lights, and laughter floated through the air. The city was alive, too alive to ever imagine silence. That's why, when Ravenfall finally went quiet, the silence felt wrong. Arian remembered that day clearly. It was a Monday. A normal, boring Monday. He woke up late, rushed through breakfast, grabbed his bag, and ran out of his apartment. His phone played the news in the background, traffic updates, weather reports, political arguments, nothing unusual. Just one small headline appeared at the bottom of the screen. Ravenfall City Zoo closed due to sudden animal illness. Arian didn't stop scrolling. He had no idea what that illness really meant. Outside his college, something felt off. Groups of students stood whispering, checking their phones again and again. Some were pointing toward the direction of the zoo. Police sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Arian spotted his friend Rohan near the gate. "What's going on?" Arian asked. Rohan looked uneasy. "Something strange. They say some animals escaped from the zoo." Arian frowned. "Escaped, like monkeys?" Rohan shook his head. "Dogs, wolves, maybe more." Arian laughed nervously. "Zoo dogs." "That's what makes it creepy," Rohan replied. "People say the animals attacked someone." "Animals attack sometimes," Arian said, trying to sound calm. Rohan leaned closer and whispered, "These animals didn't act normal." That word stayed in Arian's mind. Not normal. By evening, the city began to change. Traffic slowed. Police barricades appeared near the zoo area. Ambulances raced past again and again. Social media filled with blurry videos, people screaming, animals running, blood on the streets. One video showed a man shouting into the camera, "That's not a dog. That thing is not a dog." Arian watched the clip twice. The animal in the video moved stiffly. Its eyes were pale, almost white. Its mouth hung open unnaturally, and its movements were fast, too fast. Suddenly, the video cut off. Arian felt a chill crawl up his spine. That night, Ravenfall City stopped breathing. The usual sounds, cars, music, voices, faded away. Streets emptied faster than ever before. Shops pulled down shutters. Helicopters hovered above the city, their lights slicing through the darkness. Arian stood by his apartment window, watching the road below. A police jeep drove past. Then another. Then nothing. Silence. His phone buzzed. "Emergency alert. Remain indoors. Avoid contact with animals or injured individuals." Animals. Arian locked his door. Around midnight, he heard screaming. Not loud. Not close. But real. Arian pressed his ear against the door. The screams came from the street below, followed by a strange sound, like growling mixed with choking. Then silence again. His heart pounded. He checked the corridor camera on his phone app. The hallway was empty. But something moved near the staircase. A shadow. It moved on all fours. Arian held his breath. The shadow disappeared. Hours later, just before dawn, his phone rang. An unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Hello." A girl's voice whispered, shaking and scared. "Please, is anyone alive?" Arian froze. "Who is this?" "My name is Mira," she said. "I'm trapped near Central Street. The animals, they're not animals anymore." Arian swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" She paused, then said quietly, "They're dead, but they're still moving." Before Arian could reply, the call cut off. Outside his window, something howled. Not human. Not animal. Something in between. Arian realized something terrifying. Ravenfall City didn't fall asleep. It was waiting. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2, When Animals Screamed First. Arian did not sleep that night. The girl's voice, Mira, kept repeating in his head. They're dead, but they're still moving. Outside, Ravenfall City felt like a corpse pretending to be alive. Streetlights flickered. Wind pushed trash across the road. Somewhere far away, glass shattered. Arian checked his phone. No network. No messages. No updates. Just silence. Then came the sound. Scratching. It was faint at first, like nails against concrete. Arian slowly walked toward his apartment door. His heart beat so loud he was sure something outside could hear it. The scratching grew louder. Closer. Then a deep, wet growl echoed through the corridor. Arian stepped back. That's not possible, he whispered to himself. Dogs didn't come this high up. And dogs didn't sound like that. Suddenly, the corridor camera feed on his phone turned blurry. Something slammed into the staircase door. Bang! Arian jumped. The door shook violently, dust fell from the ceiling. Bang! Bang! Then silence. Arian held his breath, tears forming in his eyes without him realizing. A moment later, the door slowly creaked open. Something crawled out. It was a dog. Or at least, it used to be. Its body was twisted at the wrong angles. One leg bent backward unnaturally. Patches of fur were missing, revealing dark, rotting skin underneath. Its eyes were white and empty, yet somehow focused. The dog lifted its head and smiled. Not a real smile. A broken, stretched expression showing blood-covered teeth. Arian screamed. He ran. Barefoot, heart exploding, he rushed into his bedroom and slammed the door shut. He pushed his bed against it, hands shaking uncontrollably. The sound of claws hit the wood. Scratch, scratch, thud. The door cracked. Arian grabbed the only thing nearby, a metal rod from a broken chair. Go away, he shouted, even though he knew it wouldn't understand. The scratching stopped. Then came something worse. A sniffing sound. The dog was smelling him. Arian backed toward the window. His apartment was on the 4th floor. Jumping meant death. Staying meant something worse. The door suddenly burst open. The zombie dog leaped. Arian swung the rod with all his strength. Crack! The dog hit the wall, bones snapping loudly, but it didn't die. It stood again. Angrier. Vaster. That's when gunshots exploded from outside. Bang! 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 The dog's head burst apart. It collapsed instantly. Arian dropped to the floor, sobbing. Someone yelled from below, anyone alive up there? Arian crawled to the window and looked down. A group of people stood on the street, armed, scared, covered in blood. One of them looked up. Get down here, now. Minutes later, Arian was running down the stairs, every step feeling like it might be his last. Outside, Ravenfall City had become a nightmare. Burning cars, broken shops, bodies on the road. Not just human bodies. Dead animals lay everywhere, dogs, cats, even birds. But some of them were still moving. A man screamed as a zombie rat climbed up his leg, biting into his flesh. Another person was dragged down by 2 infected dogs. Arian felt like throwing up. This can't be real, he whispered. A woman beside him cried, why are the animals first? No one answered. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the street. Something big moved in the smoke. Too big to be a dog. Too fast to be human. A zombie tiger burst out of a pet shop, its body covered in wounds, eyes glowing pale blue. Chains hung from its neck, broken and useless. People ran in all directions. The tiger pounced. Blood sprayed across the road. Arian froze. He couldn't move. That's when a hand grabbed his arm. "Move," a girl shouted. Arian turned. It was her. Mira. Her face was pale, hair messy, eyes filled with fear, but also determination. She pulled him behind a crashed bus, just as the zombie tiger slammed into a car nearby. "You answered my call," she said, breathing hard. "You're real," Arian replied, shocked. She nodded, unfortunately. They locked eyes for a second. In the middle of death and chaos, something human connected. Then Mira whispered the words that changed everything. "This didn't start today." Arian frowned. "What?" Mira swallowed. People were watching this happen, recording it, smiling. Before Arian could ask more, a scream echoed nearby. Human screams. Zombie screams. And something else. Laughter. From inside a dark building. Mira grabbed Arian's hand tightly. "Welcome to Ravenfall," she said. "Where the city wanted this." End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3, Blood on Silent Streets. Ravenfall City was bleeding. Not loudly. Not dramatically. It bled in silence. Arian and Mira hid behind the overturned bus, both trying to control their breathing. Smoke filled the air, mixed with the sharp smell of blood and burning rubber. Somewhere nearby, something heavy dragged itself across the road. Mira slowly peeked out. "Don't move," she whispered. "It can hear breathing." Arian nodded, frozen. The zombie tiger was gone now, but the street was far from safe. Shapes moved between the fog, limping humans, crawling animals, shadows that didn't behave like living things should. Arian finally spoke, his voice shaking. "You said this didn't start today." Mira looked at him. For a moment, fear dropped from her face, replaced by something darker. "I work near Central Hospital," she said quietly. "For the last week, strange patients were coming in, bite marks, scratches. Doctors said it was rabies or drugs." "But," Arian asked. "But they didn't die normally," Mira replied. "They stopped breathing and then came back." Arian felt his stomach twist. Before he could say anything, footsteps echoed nearby. Slow, uneven. A man appeared from the fog. His clothes were torn, blood covered his shirt, his head hung low as if he was exhausted. Arian stepped forward. "Hey, are you okay?" Mira grabbed his arm hard. "No." The man lifted his face. His eyes were gray, lifeless. His jaw hung open, broken at the side. He smiled. Then he ran. "Run," Mira screamed. The zombie human sprinted toward them, faster than any injured man should move. His feet slapped against the road violently. Arian picked up a broken pipe and swung. The pipe hit the man's shoulder. Crack! The bone snapped, but the man didn't stop. He grabbed Arian, nails digging into his skin. Arian screamed as rotten breath filled his face. Mira acted instantly. She stabbed a shard of glass straight into the man's eye. The zombie collapsed, twitching. Arian fell backward, shaking. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Arian whispered. "That was a human." Mira nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "Yes." The silence after that was heavier than any scream. They moved carefully through the street, stepping over bodies, avoiding noise. Every shop was destroyed, every window broken. Ravenfall looked like it had been abandoned for years, yet it had only been hours. As they walked, Arian noticed something disturbing. Some bodies weren't eaten. They were torn apart on purpose. "Animals don't do this," he said quietly. Mira agreed, Neither do zombies. They reached a narrow alley and stopped to rest. Arian's arm was bleeding from where the zombie grabbed him. Mira carefully tied a cloth around it. "You saved me," Arian said. She didn't look up. "You would have done the same." Arian watched her hands tremble slightly. "You're scared," he said gently. Mira smiled weakly. "Of course I am, but if I stop moving, I'll break." Their eyes met. For the first time since the nightmare began, the world felt human. Just two people. Alive. Together. Then clapping echoed around them. Slow. Mocking. Clap, clap, clap. They turned. Three people stood at the end of the alley. Clean clothes. Calm faces. Phones in their hands. One of them smiled. "This is amazing," the man said, "so real." Mira's voice went cold. "Who are you?" The woman beside him laughed softly. "Viewers." Arian frowned. "Viewers of what?" The man raised his phone. The screen showed live. Thousands of comments scrolled rapidly. "Fire, this is better than movies. Fire, look at them run. Fire, the animals are insane." Arian felt sick. "You're streaming this," he whispered. The man nodded proudly. "People love horror, especially when it's real." Mira stepped back. "You let this happen." The woman shrugged. "No, we just didn't stop it." Behind them, something growled. A pack of zombie dogs emerged slowly from the shadows. The man smiled wider. "Run," he said cheerfully. "Let's see how long you last." Arian and Mira ran. Not for survival. For dignity. Behind them, laughter mixed with growls and screams. As they disappeared into the fog, Mira whispered something that chilled Arian to his core. Humans don't just survive horror. They enjoy it. And somewhere in Ravenfall City, millions were watching. Smiling. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4, Two Strangers, One Nightmare. Arian and Mira ran until their lungs burned. They didn't look back. Behind them, the sounds followed. Laughter from the watchers. Growls from the zombie dogs. And the heavy echo of something else moving in the dark. They turned into a narrow street filled with abandoned cars. Mira suddenly pulled Arian down behind a crashed taxi. "Quiet," she whispered. Arian pressed his hand over his mouth, forcing his breathing to slow. His heart felt like it would tear out of his chest. The zombie dogs appeared seconds later. 4 of them. Their bodies were thin and broken, ribs visible through torn flesh. Their heads twitched as they sniffed the air, teeth clicking softly. One dog lifted its head and stared straight at the taxi. Arian's blood turned cold. It knew. Mira slowly reached into her bag and pulled out a small bottle. She unscrewed the cap carefully and poured the liquid onto the ground, then crushed a packet of medicine and mixed it in. "What are you doing?" Arian mouthed silently. "Hospital chemicals," Mira whispered. "Strong smell confuses them." She tossed the bottle away. It shattered loudly on the road. The dogs instantly turned and ran toward the sound, growling angrily. Arian didn't move until the street was silent again. "That was smart," he whispered. Mira gave a tired smile. "I didn't plan to use these for this." They sat there for a moment, both shaking. That's when Arian noticed Mira's hands were bleeding. "You're hurt," he said. "It's nothing," she replied quickly. "It's not nothing," Arian said, gently taking her hand. She didn't pull away. The cut was deep but not infected yet. Arian tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped it carefully around her palm. Mira watched him quietly. "You didn't hesitate," she said. Arian shrugged. "Someone has to." Their eyes met again. In the middle of a city full of deaths, something warm and fragile appeared. Connection. They moved again, slower this time. The city felt different now. Not chaotic. Organized. Screens flickered on buildings, huge digital ads still running, but now showing something else. Live stream, IVNFALL. Arian stared at one screen. It showed another street, another group of people running, screaming. View count, 2.3 million. They built this, Arian whispered, all of this. Mira nodded. The watchers aren't random, someone controls the streams. They reached an old shopping mall, its glass shattered, entrance half collapsed. This place might be safe, Mira said. Or a trap, Arian replied. She looked at him seriously. Everything is a trap now, at least this one has walls. They slipped inside. The mall was dark, but not empty. Shadows moved behind stores. A faint crying sound echoed from somewhere above. Did you hear that? Arian asked. Mira nodded. A child. They climbed the escalator carefully. On the second floor, they found a small group of survivors, 5 people hiding inside a clothing store. A woman hugged a little boy tightly. A man held a knife, shaking. When they saw Arian and Mira, the man shouted, "Stay back." "We're not infected," Mira said calmly. "We just want shelter." The woman studied them for a long second, then nodded. "Come in," she said softly. The store door closed behind them. For the first time in hours, Arian felt slightly safe. They shared water, shared names. The woman was called Anita. The boy was her son, Karen. The man with the knife was Vikram, a security guard. Animals attacked first, Vikram said. Then people started changing. Arian asked the question everyone was afraid to ask. Can it spread without a bite? Silence filled the store. Anita looked away. My husband wasn't bitten, she said quietly. He just watched too many streams. He stopped sleeping, stopped talking. Her voice broke. One night he smiled at the screen and then attacked us. Arian felt sick. Mira whispered, so fear isn't the only infection. No, Vikram said, enjoyment is. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A voice filled the mall. Calm, cheerful. Welcome, Ravenfall survivors. Screens lit up everywhere. A masked face appeared. We've been watching you, the voice continued, and you're doing great. Karen started crying. Mira stepped forward. Why are you doing this? The masked figure tilted its head, because the world loves horror, and Ravenfall is the perfect show. The screen zoomed in, straight onto Arian and Mira. The voice smiled. And you too, you're the audience favorite. Mira grabbed Arian's hand. Run, she whispered. But before they could move, the mall doors slammed shut. From the shadows below, footsteps echoed. Heavy. Multiple. Growls followed. The masked voice laughed softly. Let's see what love looks like under pressure. The lights went out. Total darkness. And something breathed right behind them. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5, Love in the Middle of Rot. Darkness swallowed the mall. No lights. No screens. No screams. Just breathing. Close. Too close. Arian froze. He could feel warm breath against his neck, slow and wet. His hands trembled as he tightened his grip on the metal rod he was still carrying. Mira's voice came as a whisper near his ear. Don't move. Something shifted behind them. A soft, dragging sound. Then a low growl. The lights suddenly flickered for half a second. Enough to see it. A human figure stood less than a meter away. Its skin hung loose, torn and grey. One eye was missing. The other stared straight at Arian, full of hunger, but also recognition. It was smiling. The lights went out again. Arian swung blindly. The rod hit bone. Crack! The zombie fell back, crashing into shelves. Others screamed, inhuman, angry screams echoing through the mall. Now Mira shouted. They ran. They burst through the store's back door into a narrow service corridor. Anita and Vikram followed, dragging little Karen with them. The cries of zombies filled the darkness behind. Stairs, Vikram yelled. They rushed upward, tripping over broken steps, hands scraping against walls. The smell of rot grew stronger. Suddenly, Karen slipped. Mira turned instantly and grabbed him before he fell. The boy clung to her, sobbing. Please, don't let them eat me. Mira hugged him tightly. They won't, I promise. Her voice was calm, but Arian saw fear in her eyes. They reached the rooftop. Cold air hit their faces. For a moment, it felt like freedom. Then they heard it. A roar. Not animal. Not human. Something worse. On the rooftop, dozens of bodies lay scattered. Some human. Some animal. All dead. All torn apart. Arian whispered, "What happened here?" Vikram shook his head slowly. They were left here for the stream. Screens suddenly turned on around the rooftop walls. The masked figure appeared again. Applause echoed from hidden speakers. Beautiful, the voice said. Fear always brings people closer. Mira shouted, "You're sick." The mask tilted. No, we're honest. Behind them, zombies climbed onto the rooftop. Humans with twisted limbs, dogs crawling on broken legs, birds flapping useless wings with exposed bones. They were surrounded. Anita cried quietly, "There's no way out." Arian felt his chest tighten. Then Mira took his hand. Her hand was cold. Shaking. "I'm scared," she admitted softly. Arian looked at her, "Me too." For a moment, the world disappeared. No zombies. No watchers. No city. Just two people facing the end. Mira stepped closer. "If we survive this, if somehow we do." Arian didn't let her finish. He leaned forward and kissed her. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. Human. For 1 second, the world stopped rotting. Then the screams came back. A gunshot rang out. Then another. 2 zombies fell. From the opposite building, someone shouted, "Jump." A rope dropped between rooftops. Vikram didn't hesitate. He tied Karen to himself and jumped first. Anita followed, crying. Arian looked at Mira. "Go." She shook her head. Together. They jumped. The rope snapped tight, swinging them hard into the building. Arian slammed into the wall, pain exploding through his shoulder, but he held on. They rolled onto the rooftop of the next building. Alive. Barely. Behind them, the masked figure clapped slowly. "Well done," the voice said. "You just became our top-rated moment." Mira turned, rage burning in her eyes. "You know me, don't you?" The voice paused, then laughed. "Yes," it said, "you worked for us once." Arian stared at her. "What?" Mira's face went pale. The screen showed footage. A hospital. Security cameras. Mira talking to doctors. Signing papers. The voice spoke softly. "You helped us study fear, and now you're part of the show." The screen went black. Mira collapsed to her knees. Arian knelt beside her. "Mira, what is this?" Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear, I didn't know what they would do." Below them, Ravenfall burned. Above them, drones hovered silently. Watching. Recording. And somewhere in the city, millions of people smiled. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6. The zoo was never empty. The city zoo was supposed to be closed. That's what the news had said. That's what the signs still claimed. But as Arian stared at the massive iron gates standing half open in the fog, he understood the truth. The zoo was never empty. It was waiting. They had moved through rooftops and broken stairwells for nearly an hour, avoiding streets and screens. Vikram led them now, using routes he had learned as a security guard, paths meant for emergencies, not survival. "We shouldn't go near the zoo," Arian said quietly. Vikram stopped. "We don't have a choice. All other roads are blocked." Mira hadn't spoken much since the rooftop. Her face was pale, eyes distant. Arian touched her arm gently. "Mira, tell me what the voice meant about you working for them." She took a deep breath. "I worked at Central Hospital, a private research wing. They said it was about trauma studies, fear response." "Streaming?" Arian asked. "No," she said quickly, "not at first." She looked up at the zoo gates. They brought animals from here, sick ones, injured ones, animals that had bitten people. Arian felt a chill. For what? "To see how fear spreads," Mira whispered, "in animals first." Inside the zoo, silence felt heavier than anywhere else. Cages stood open, glass enclosures were shattered, blood smeared the ground in long, dragged lines. But there were no animals. Anita hugged Karen closer. "Where are they?" Vikram answered quietly, "Everywhere." They passed the bird section. Dead birds lay scattered, wings torn, eyes missing. Some cages were empty, others contained only feathers. Suddenly, something fluttered above them. A shadow dropped. Arian ducked just in time as a zombie crow smashed into the ground, screeching violently. Its wings were broken, bones sticking out, but it kept flapping, crawling toward them with its beak snapping. Arian crushed its head with the rod. It didn't stop until the skull split completely. Karen started crying again. Mira whispered, "Animals don't feel fear like we do. That made them perfect carriers." "Carriers of what?" Arian asked. Mira didn't answer. They reached the underground research section beneath the zoo, a place not marked on any public map. The door was already open. Lights flickered weakly inside. "Someone been here recently," Vikram said. Inside, the walls were covered in observation screens. Files lay scattered across desks. Tanks filled with dark liquid lined one side of the room. Arian picked up a file. Subject type, animal. Status, reanimation successful. His hands shook. Mira closed her eyes. They injected animals with a compound meant to keep the brain active after death. "Zombies," Arian whispered. "No," Mira said. "Worse, test versions." A loud metallic clang echoed through the hallway. Then another. Something big moved in the dark. A massive shape stepped into the light. It was a bear, or what remained of one. Its fur was patchy and burned away in places. Metal plates were bolted into its skull. Tubes ran from its neck into its chest. One eye glowed faint red. It roared. The sound shook the walls. "Back!" Vikram shouted. The zombie bear charged. It smashed through a glass tank like paper, liquid flooding the floor. Arian grabbed Mira and ran as the beast slammed into walls, roaring louder with every impact. They ducked into a narrow lab room and slammed the door shut. The door bent inward immediately. Anita screamed. Mira looked around desperately, her eyes locked onto a control panel. "This room controls sedation gas," she said. "Does it work on zombies?" Arian shouted. "I don't know." She slammed her hand on the panel. A hiss filled the room. Outside, the bear slowed. It roared again, angry, confused, then collapsed. Silence followed. Heavy, uncertain. Mira sank to the floor, shaking. I didn't know it would become this, she whispered. They said it was science. Arian knelt beside her. You tried to help people. She looked up at him, tears streaming. I helped create this. Arian took her hands. You didn't choose what they became. For a moment, she believed him. Then a screen flickered on. The masked figure appeared again. Excellent work, the voice said calmly. You survived phase 1. Arian shouted, show yourself. The mask tilted, in time. The screen zoomed out, revealing dozens of other cities on the map. Red dots blinked. Ravenfall was just one of them. Mira whispered, horrified, it's not just our city. No, the voice replied pleasantly, Ravenfall is the pilot. The screen went black. From deeper inside the zoo, something else roared. Not the bear. Something newer. Something faster. Vikram looked at the dark corridor and whispered, what else did you keep down here? Mira swallowed hard. Animals that never existed before. The ground shook, and from the shadows, glowing eyes opened. Many of them. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7, People Who Enjoyed the Chaos. The glowing eyes in the darkness did not rush. They watched. The terrified Arian more than any attack. The underground zoo lab felt smaller now, tighter, as if the walls themselves were listening. The roar they had heard earlier faded into a low breathing sound, slow, controlled. Mira stepped back, her voice barely audible. They don't move like normal animals. Vikram raised his weapon, because they are. Before anyone could react, the lights suddenly turned on. Blinding white. Arian covered his eyes. When his vision cleared, the glowing eyes were gone. Instead, there were people. 5 of them. Standing calmly at the end of the corridor. Clean clothes. Protective masks hanging loose around their necks. Phones and cameras in their hands. One man clapped slowly. Welcome to the control zone, he said with a smile. You've made it farther than most. Anita gasped, you're not infected. No, the man replied cheerfully, we are careful. Arian stepped forward angrily, you're the ones streaming this. The man nodded proudly, someone has to show the truth. Mira stared at them, her face cold. You enjoy this. A woman among them laughed softly. Enjoy, we love it. She lifted her phone. On the screen, Arian saw himself. Mira. Vikram. Even Karen. Liv. Comments flew past faster than he could read. Fire the Zoo episode is insane. Fire the Girl is back. Fire release the new creature. Arian felt sick. You're letting people die, he said. The man shrugged. People die every day, at least now they're interesting. Mira clenched her fists. This was never about science, was it? No, the man replied calmly. It was about honesty. He stepped closer. Humans love horror, he continued. Movies, games, news, disasters. We watch, we comment, we feel alive. He gestured around the lab. We just removed the screen. Suddenly, a loud scream echoed from behind them. Not human. Not animal. Something in between. The woman smiled. The audience wants action. Vikram shouted, we're leaving. The man shook his head. You can't, this area is sealed. Mira stepped forward. You said I worked with you, why? The man tilted his head. Because you understood fear, you knew how people react when watched. Mira whispered, I studied trauma to help them heal. And now, the man replied, you help millions feel something. That's when Arian noticed something horrifying. Behind the glass wall, to the right, people were sitting. Normal people. Drinking coffee. laughing, watching screens. They're not survivors, Arian whispered. No, the woman said proudly, they're subscribers. Anita covered Karen's eyes. Arian's hands shook with rage. You're monsters. The man smiled wider. No, we're honest humans. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. A voice echoed through the lab. Creature containment failure. The watchers panicked. That's not scheduled, one of them shouted. From the darkness behind the glass, something slammed into the wall. Crash! A massive shadow appeared, taller than a human, faster than any animal Arian had seen. Mira whispered, horrified. That's not from the zoo. The glass cracked. The man backed away, who released it. The creature roared. Not in pain. In hunger. The watchers screamed as the glass shattered. Chaos erupted. Arian grabbed Mira's hand. Now. They ran as the creature tore into the watchers, cameras falling to the ground, streams still live. Blood splashed across screens. Comments exploded. Fire, this is too real. Fire, don't cut the stream. Fire, best episode ever. Arian wanted to throw up. They escaped through a side corridor, screams echoing behind them. As they ran, Mira whispered something that chilled him more than any zombie. This is what they wanted. Arian looked at her. What? To lose control, she said, because chaos gets more views. They burst out into the night air. The city burned brighter than ever. Not because it was dying, but because millions were watching it die. End of Chapter 7. Chapter 8, Truth Under the Hospital. Central Hospital stood in silence. Once it had been a place of healing. Now it looked like a grave, tall, cold, and watching. Arian, Mira, Vikram, Anita, and Karen hid behind an overturned ambulance across the street. Smoke drifted through the air. The hospital's emergency lights still blinked, slow and tired, as if the building itself was barely alive. This place feels wrong, Arian whispered. Mira didn't reply. Her eyes were fixed on the hospital entrance. I've been here before, she finally said, not as a survivor, as a worker. Vikram looked at her sharply. You knew this place. Mira nodded. There's something under it, a level that doesn't exist on any map. Anita hugged Karen tighter. What kind of level? Mira swallowed. The kind where people stopped being people. They entered through a broken side door. The hospital smelled of chemicals and decay. Wheelchairs lay overturned. Blood trails led down hallways. Screens still glowed faintly, showing heart monitors that no longer beeped. As they moved deeper, they heard soft moaning. A patient crawled toward them. Half his body was gone. His eyes were empty. Arian froze. Can he be saved? Mira shook her head slowly. No. Vikram ended it quickly. Karen turned his face away. The silence after that felt heavy. Mira led them to an elevator at the far end of the building. The buttons were scratched, except one. Bay 2. She pressed it. The elevator descended slowly, each second stretching painfully. When the doors opened, cold air rushed out. White walls, bright lights, clean floors. Too clean. This place never shut down, Arian whispered. No, Mira said, because it was never meant to be seen. Glass rooms lined the underground corridor. Inside them were people, strapped to beds, connected to wires. Some alive, some moving without breathing. Arian's hands shook. They're experimenting on humans. Mira nodded, tears forming. They learned animals weren't enough. A screen turned on automatically. A familiar, masked face appeared. You shouldn't be here, the voice said calmly. Mira stepped forward. You used me. The mask tilted. We chose you. Why? Arian shouted. The voice replied, because you care. Caring people create the best guilt. The screen changed. Footage played Mira in meetings, signing approvals, comforting patients. Then the footage sped up. Patients being injected. Via tests. Heart monitors flatlining, then restarting. Mira collapsed to her knees. I thought I was helping them recover from trauma, she sobbed. You were, the voice said softly. We just extended the trauma. Arian knelt beside her. You didn't know. But I didn't stop it, Mira whispered. Suddenly, alarms blared again. Red lights flooded the corridor. Subject awakening. One of the glass rooms cracked. Inside, a man sat up slowly. He smiled, but his eyes were black. Everyone reacts differently, the voice said. Fear changes people, some break. The man ripped the restraints off easily. And some, the voice continued, evolve. The glass shattered. The man stepped out. He didn't limp. He didn't growl. He spoke. I'm not sick, he said calmly. I'm free. Arian backed away in horror. That's not a zombie. Mira whispered, that's worse. The man looked directly at Mira and smiled. You showed me who I really am. Behind him, other rooms began to crack. Vikram shouted, we need 2GO. They ran as screams filled the underground level. As they reached the stairs, the calm voice echoed one last time. Run if you want, it said. This city already chose its future. They burst out into the night. Arian looked back at the hospital. Lights flickered in a pattern, almost like a signal. Mira wiped her tears. This wasn't an outbreak, she said quietly. Arian nodded. It was a test. And Ravenfall City had passed. End of Chapter 8. Chapter 9, killing became normal. Ravenfall did not shock people anymore. It trained them. Arian realized this as they moved through the streets after escaping the hospital. Fires burned in the distance, but no one ran to stop them. Bodies lay where they had fallen, untouched, not because people cared, but because no one felt anything anymore. Silence wasn't peace. It was acceptance. They hid inside an abandoned apartment building. Broken furniture blocked the doors. Curtains were tied over windows to keep out drone lights. For a few minutes, no one spoke. Then Karen whispered, are we bad people now? The question cut deeper than any scream. Anita hugged her son tightly, but didn't answer. Arian looked at his hands. He had killed 3 things tonight. 2 animals. 1 human. And the worst part, his hands weren't shaking anymore. Vikram cleaned his weapon calmly. You hesitate, you die, he said flatly. That's the rule now. Mira looked up sharply. That's how they want us to think. Vikram met her eyes. That's how survival works. The tension in the room thickened. Arian stepped between them. There has to be a line. Vikram scoffed. Lines disappeared with the first bite. Mira turned to Arian. Do you remember who you were yesterday? Arian didn't answer immediately. Yesterday, he had complained about exams. Today, he wondered how easy it would be to end someone. That scared him more than zombies ever could. A scream echoed outside. Short, sharp, cut off. They froze. Another scream followed, closer. Through the cracked window, Arian saw a man running down the street. He was bleeding, clutching his side. Behind him, 2 infected humans followed, not rushing, just walking, confident. The man fell. The infected didn't attack immediately. They watched, learning. Mira whispered, they're enjoying it. Suddenly, a door below them burst open. Another group of survivors rushed into the building, 3 men and a woman. They were armed. Their faces were hard. One of the men looked up and shouted, "Anyone alive?" Vikram raised his weapon, "Stay back." The man laughed, "Relax, we're not infected." "But you're dangerous," Mira said quietly. The woman stepped forward, "So are you." They stared at each other through the darkness. The unspoken truth hung in the air. Humans had become the biggest threat. Downstairs, the screaming stopped. One of the men from the new group smiled. "See, problem solved." Mira's voice shook. "You didn't help him." The man shrugged. "He was slowing us down." Karan buried his face into Anita's chest. Aryan felt something break inside him. "That was a person," Aryan said. The man stepped closer. "So are we, and we're alive." Vikram lowered his weapon slowly. Mira grabbed Aryan's hand, squeezing it tight. "Don't," she whispered. "This is how it starts." The group laughed and moved upstairs, searching rooms without permission. Their footsteps echoed like ownership. Aryan realized something terrifying. If this continued, he might become just like them. Later that night, Mira sat alone near the window, staring into the darkness. Aryan joined her. "I don't want to lose who we are," she said softly. Aryan looked at her. "Then we have to choose differently, even if it's harder." She leaned her head against his shoulder. For a brief moment, the city faded. Just 2 people holding onto humanity. Then gunshots echoed outside. Rapid, organized. Vikram rushed to the window. "That's not random." Searchlights cut through the streets. A symbol appeared, projected on a nearby building. "An eye. Watching." Mira whispered, "They're cleaning the city." Aryan frowned. "Who?" She swallowed. "The ones who decide who deserves to survive." From the darkness, armored vehicles rolled in. Not to save people, to select them. And Aryan understood the truth. Ravenfall wasn't collapsing anymore. It was being reshaped. End of Chapter 9. Chapter 10, MERA Secret. The armored vehicles did not stop. They moved slowly through Ravenfall's streets, their engines calm, controlled, like predators that already knew the hunt was over. Searchlights scanned buildings, streets, rooftops. Selecting, not saving. Aryan watched from the cracked window as figures in black armor dragged people out of hiding places. Some were taken away, some were shot where they stood. No explanations. No mercy. "This isn't rescue," Aryan whispered. "This is judgment." Mira didn't respond. She stood near the wall, her face pale, eyes fixed on the symbol of the watching eye projected on a nearby building. Vikram turned toward her sharply. "You recognize that symbol, don't you?" Silence. Anita looked between them nervously. "Mira." Mira closed her eyes. "Yes," she said quietly, "I do." Aryan's chest tightened. "What do you mean, you recognize it?" Mira took a shaky breath. "Because I helped design it." The room went still. Karen whimpered softly. Aryan stared at her. "That's not funny." "I know," Mira replied. "That's why I never wanted you to find out like this." Vikram stepped forward. "Start talking now." Mira sank onto the floor, her back against the wall. "Before the outbreak," she began, "Ravenfall was chosen for a project, not a medical one, a social one." Aryan felt a chill. Social. "They wanted to study human behavior under fear," she said, "not in labs, in real life." She looked up at Aryan, her eyes filled with pain. "They believed society was already broken, that people only pretended to be kind because rules existed." "And you believed them?" Aryan asked quietly. "No," Mira said quickly. "I believed I could limit the damage." She clenched her fists. They told me the animals were phase 1, controlled, contained. I didn't know they planned to let it spread. Vikram laughed bitterly. You always didn't know. Mira flinched. They needed someone who understood empathy, she continued. Someone who could predict emotional collapse. Arian whispered, they used your kindness. Yes, she said, and I let them. Outside, gunfire echoed again. Closer. The armored units were moving toward their building. They're coming here, Anita whispered. Mira stood up suddenly. I can stop them. Everyone turned toward her. Arian's heart skipped. What? They still have my ID, Mira said. My clearance. If I signal them, they'll hesitate. Vikram snapped, or they'll kill us faster. Mira looked at Arian. If I don't do this, they'll treat you like test subjects, she said softly, like entertainment. Arian felt anger, fear, and love crash together inside him. You should have told me, he said. I was scared, Mira replied, scared you'd look at me like everyone else. He looked at her now. Not with hate, with pain. I don't know how to forgive this, Arian said honestly, but I don't want you to die for it either. Mira smiled weakly. That might not be my choice. She moved toward the door. Vikram grabbed her arm. If this is a trick. It's not, Mira said firmly, and if I don't come back. She turned to Arian. Don't become what they want you to become. Then she stepped into the hallway. From the window, Arian watched her walk toward the armored unit. Hands raised. Lights focused on her instantly. A voice echoed from a loudspeaker. Identity recognized. Arian's breath caught. Mira spoke calmly into the night. This city has shown you enough, she said. End the test. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the armored unit's lights shifted. Weapons lowered. A calm voice replied. Request acknowledged. Arian felt hope rise. Until the voice continued. But the audience disagrees. Screens across the city lit up. Live comments flooded in. Fire, don't stop now. Fire, this is the best part. Fire, let them suffer. Mira's shoulders sagged. She turned slightly and looked back at the building. At Arian. The armored unit raised its weapons again. Arian screamed, MERA. The shot echoed. Mira fell. The lights cut out. And Ravenfall City cheered. Arian's scream tore through the night. Something inside him shattered completely. Not hope. Not love. Trust. As Vikram pulled him back from the window, Arian realized something terrifying. The city didn't just enjoy horror. It demanded it. And now, it had taken the one person who kept him human. End of Chapter 10. Chapter 11, When Humans Turned on Each Other. Mira did not move. Her body lay still on the road, half lit by broken streetlights, rain beginning to fall around her like the city itself was crying too late. Arian couldn't breathe. His scream stayed stuck in his chest, burning, tearing him apart from the inside. Vikram dragged him away from the window as bullets hit the building nearby. They'll see you, Vikram shouted. Arian didn't hear him. All he could see was Mira falling. All he could hear was the cheering. The city was alive again. And it was celebrating death. They escaped through the back staircase as armored units stormed the building. Anita carried Karen, whispering prayers that felt empty now. Arian followed like a shadow, quiet, hollow. They hid in an underground parking structure filled with abandoned cars and darkness. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Arian finally said, in a voice that didn't sound like his own, "She died because people wanted entertainment." Vikram looked away. She died because the world is rotten. Arian clenched his fists. No, because humans are. That night, something inside Arian changed. Not suddenly, not loudly. It hardened. The next day, Ravenfall became worse. Survivor groups formed gangs. Food became currency, weapons decided truth. Anyone weak was abandoned, anyone kind was used. They moved carefully through the city, avoiding main roads. In one apartment, they found a group of survivors arguing over supplies. A man begged, "Please, my wife is injured." Another man shot him without hesitation. No zombies were involved. Anita covered Karen's eyes. Arian didn't look away. "That's enough," Vikram whispered. "We leave." But the shooters turned toward them. "Supplies," one of them demanded, "or you don't walk out." Arian stepped forward. Vikram grabbed his arm. "Don't." Arian pulled free. "No," Arian said calmly, "you leave." The man laughed. "Or what?" Arian moved fast. Too fast. He struck the man's throat with the metal rod, crushing it instantly. The second man raised his gun. Arian didn't hesitate. He hit him again, hard, repeatedly. When it was over, the room was silent. Anita stared at Arian in horror. "You killed them," she whispered. Arian looked down at his blood-covered hands. "They would have killed us," he replied. His voice didn't shake. That scared him. Later, Vikram confronted him. "You're losing yourself," Vikram said. Arian looked at him coldly. "No, I'm adapting." "That's what they want," Vikram snapped. "They want you angry, broken." Arian stepped closer. "They already broke me." That night, as they rested, Arian stared at the ceiling and realized the truth. Killing no longer felt wrong. It felt necessary. By evening, armored units stopped appearing. Not because the city was safe. Because it no longer needed control. People had learned. Screens still streamed violence, but now the camera angles changed. Survivors filmed themselves. Executions. Traps. Hunts. Ravenfall had become a stage without directors. Anita whispered, "This city isn't infected anymore." Vikram nodded grimly. "It's educated." Suddenly, drones hovered above them. A familiar, calm voice echoed from speakers. "Congratulations," it said. "You've entered the final phase." Arian looked up, eyes burning. "What do you want?" he shouted. The voice replied softly, "To see what you choose next." Lights illuminated a nearby street. Two survivor groups stood facing each other. Both armed. Both scared. The voice continued. "Only one group leaves." Arian understood. This wasn't survival. It was a test. And for the first time since Mira's death, Arian smiled. Not with joy. With purpose. He whispered to Vikram, "If the city wants monsters, then let's give it one." As gunfire erupted, Ravenfall watched closely. Because the humans were finally becoming exactly what the city loved most. End of Chapter 11. Chapter 12, The Truth Buried Under Steel. The city led them underground. Not by signs. Not by maps. By fear. After the staged fight between survivor groups, the drones stopped following Arian's team. Instead, lights appeared on the street ahead, one by one, getting them like a silent invitation. Vikram noticed first. "They want us to go somewhere." Arian nodded. "Good, I'm done running." They followed the lights to an old industrial district, long forgotten even before Ravenfall fell. A massive steel structure rose from the ground like a buried beast, half factory, half bunker. No signs. No name. Just a symbol burned into the metal doors. The eye. Anita whispered, this is where it started, isn't it? Mira's words echoed in Arian's head. This city chose its future. Yes, Arian said, and this is where it ends. The doors opened on their own. Inside, everything was quiet, too clean, too controlled. Long corridors stretched forward, walls lined with cables and screens. On those screens, Ravenfall played on repeat, streets, rooftops, alleys. Every death, every choice, recorded. Karen looked at one screen and gasped, that's us. Arian saw it too. Their escape from the zoo. The Mal rooftop. Mira's last moments. His jaw tightened. At the center of the facility stood a circular room with a single chair. And someone was sitting in it. An old man. Gray hair. Calm eyes. No mask. He smiled gently. Hello, Arian. Vikram raised his weapon. How do you know his name? The old man waved dismissively. Because I've watched him grow. Fear shapes people beautifully. Arian stepped forward. You're the voice. Yes, the man said, and no. He stood up slowly. I'm the architect. They learned the truth quickly. Too quickly. The architect explained that Ravenfall was never meant to be saved. It was chosen because it was ordinary, predictable, perfect. The virus wasn't the experiment, the man said. It was the trigger. Screens changed, showing charts, data, emotional spikes. Animals reacted first because they feel fear honestly. Humans followed because they learn fear. Anita shouted, you murdered a city. The architect nodded calmly. We revealed it. He turned to Arian. Tell me before this, how many disasters did you watch on your phone? How many crimes? How many deaths? Arian didn't answer. You didn't cause them, the man continued, but you watched and you kept scrolling. Silence crushed the room. We simply removed the distance, the architect said, and the world loved it. Vikram snapped, then why bring us here? The architect smiled, because every story needs a final character. He looked directly at Arian. You adapted faster than most. You learned when killing felt necessary, when mercy felt dangerous. Arian's hands clenched. You think I'm like you, Arian said. No, the architect replied softly. I think you're better. He gestured to the chair. Sit. Arian laughed bitterly. You want me to replace you? Yes, the architect said. I'm old. The audience wants someone new, someone broken. Screens lit up again. Live. Comments flooded in faster than ever. Fire make HIM the leader. Fire this guy understands. Fire let HIM decide who lives. Karen cried, please make it stop. Arian looked at the child. Then at Anita. Then at Vikram. Then at Mira's last image frozen on a screen. The architect leaned closer. You can end the city, he whispered, or you can control it. Arian realized the horror. This was the real infection. Joys. Alarms suddenly blared. The facility shook. Vikram shouted, something's wrong. A screen showed outer gates opening. From the depths below the city, massive containment doors unlocked. The architect smiled. Phase 4, total release. Arian turned to him. You planned this. Of course, the man replied, but now you choose how it looks. The floor trembled. Something enormous moved beneath the steel. Not animals. Not humans. Hybrids. Built to hunt. Built to entertain. Arian stepped toward the chair. Then stopped. He looked at the camera. At the audience. And for the first time, Ravenfall went silent again. Arian spoke clearly. You wanted a monster. He turned the chair over. I'll give you a mirror. The architect's smile vanished, and deep below the city, the steel finally broke. End of Chapter 12. Chapter 13, The Bridge OPNS. The steel screamed. That was the only way Arian could describe it. As the underground facility shook, alarms wailed in panic, not calm warnings anymore, but desperate cries. The screens that once showed control now showed chaos. Containment doors were opening across Ravenfall City. One by one, Vikram grabbed Arian's arm. Whatever you did, you broke their control. Arian stared at the screens. No, I showed it. From the depths beneath the city, creatures began to rise. Not fully human. Not fully animal. Hybrids. Bodies stitched together by science and fear. Human torsos with animal speed. Animal instincts with human intelligence. Their eyes were not empty like zombies. They were aware. And they were angry. Outside, the city exploded into movement. Zombie animals howled from alleys. Human infected poured out of buildings. And now, the hybrids moved faster than all of them, climbing walls, leaping across rooftops, hunting both living and dead. Anita held Karen tightly. Where do we go? Arian looked at the map, flickering on one remaining screen. Only one route blinked green. IVNFALL bridge. The last bridge out of the city. But it wasn't just an escape route. It was a funnel. They're pushing everyone there, Vikram said. Final selection. Arian nodded. The city wants an ending. They fought their way through collapsing streets. Fires blocked roads. Buildings crumbled. Drones crashed from the sky as hybrids tore them apart midair. A zombie horse charged through the smoke, its legs broken yet still running. Vikram shot it down. No one reacted anymore. They reached the bridge at dawn. Thousands of people were already there. Survivors, infected, soldiers, streamers with cameras still running. Panic ruled. On giant screens above the bridge, the architect's system spoke one last time. Welcome to the final scene. The bridge gates began to rise. But not fully. Only enough for a few to pass at a time. Arian understood immediately. They're forcing choice, he said. Who gets to leave? Hybrids emerged from both ends of the bridge. Closer. Closer. People pushed. Fought. Killed. Parents dropped children. Friends turned on friends. Anita screamed as someone tried to rip Karen from her arms. Arian didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and shouted, "Stop!" His voice echoed across the bridge, not loud but certain. For a moment, people froze. Arian climbed onto a wrecked car. They watched us because we gave them fear, he shouted. They controlled us because we followed their rules. A hybrid leaped toward him. Arian didn't run. It stopped. Its head tilted. It was listening. They made monsters to entertain themselves, Arian continued, but monsters don't choose. He looked at the creature. I do. The hybrid stepped back. Others followed. The bridge went silent. Vikram whispered, stunned, "They're responding to you." Arian understood why. Fear had shaped them, and Arian no longer feared them. He feared becoming nothing. Arian turned to the crowd. There is no system anymore, he said. No audience, no control. He pointed to the open gate. Anyone who wants to leave, go, no pushing, no killing. Slowly, people listened. One by one, survivors crossed the bridge. The infected stayed behind. The hybrids watched. Protecting. Anita crossed with Karen, crying silently. Vikram stopped beside Arian. What about you? Arian looked back at the city. At Mira's city. Someone has to close the door, he said. Vikram nodded once. You're not alone. Behind them, the bridge began to collapse. The final screen flickered. The architect's voice returned weak. You could have ruled them. Aryan replied calmly. I chose to end you. He pressed the final control. The bridge split. Ravenfall City burned behind them. But for the first time, no one was watching. End of Chapter 13. Chapter 14, The Silence After the Scream. The world outside Ravenfall felt wrong. Not broken, not destroyed, just quiet. The survivors who crossed the bridge stood scattered across an empty highway. No sirens, no drones, no screens, only the wind moving through tall grass and the sound of distant fire fading behind them. Anita sat on the ground, holding Karen close. The boy had fallen asleep from exhaustion, his face still wet with dried tears. Vikram stood nearby, staring at the horizon. Aryan leaned against a broken road sign, blood drying on his clothes, pain finally catching up to him. His body ached, but his mind hurt more. Silence pressed down on them. After days of screaming, it felt unnatural. Is it over? Anita whispered. No one answered. Because no one knew. Hours passed. The sun rose higher, revealing the truth. Ravenfall City still burned in the distance, but something had changed. No movement crossed the skyline. No smoke columns shifted unnaturally. The city looked still. Dead. Aryan closed his eyes. Mira should have been here. He imagined her standing beside him, arms crossed, teasing him for being too serious. The thought hurt more than any wound. Vikram noticed his expression. You did what you could. Aryan shook his head. I did what I had to. That's all anyone can do, Vikram replied. Aryan wasn't sure anymore. As the day stretched on, small groups of survivors began moving away, searching for food, shelter, somewhere to start again. But something strange happened. No one wanted to talk about Ravenfall. Not the zombies. Not the hybrids. Not the streams. It was as if speaking the truth would bring it back. Anita finally asked the question no one wanted to say aloud. Do you think the world will be different now? Aryan looked at the others. The world already was like this, he said quietly. Ravenfall just removed the filter. That night, as they camped beneath the open sky, Aryan walked away from the group. He stood alone, staring at the dark outline of the city. For the first time since the outbreak, he felt watched again. Not by cameras, by memory. A soft sound came from behind him. Footsteps. Aryan turned. A figure stood in the shadows. Slim. Familiar. His heart stopped. Mira, he whispered. The figure stepped into the moonlight. It was her, but not fully. Her eyes were clear, human, but her skin was pale, marked with thin dark lines spreading beneath the surface like veins. She smiled gently. You didn't think I'd be gone that easily, did you? Aryan stumbled forward. They shot you, I saw. I died, Mira said calmly, and then I woke up. Aryan froze. You're infected, he whispered. Yes, she said, but not like the others. She looked toward Ravenfall. The hybrids weren't mistakes, Mira continued. They were proof. Aryan's voice shook. Proof of what? That fear changes us, she said, but choice defines us. She took a step closer. I can hear them, Mira said softly. The infected, the animals, they don't hurt me. Aryan's hands trembled. What are you now? Mira smiled sadly. The future they couldn't control. Vikram's voice echoed from behind. Aryan. Aryan turned for a second. When he looked back, Mira was gone. Only footprints remained in the dirt, leading back toward Ravenfall City. Arian understood then. The city wasn't finished. It was evolving. And Mira was now part of it. End of Chapter 14. Chapter 15, Why Humanity Loves Horror. The road away from Ravenfall stretched endlessly. Survivors walked forward, but no one truly left the city behind. It stayed in their eyes, in their silence, in the way they avoided looking back. Arian walked last. He always did now. Behind him, Ravenfall City stood quiet, too quiet for something that had once screamed non-stop. Smoke rose slowly, like the city was breathing its final thoughts into the sky. Or maybe waiting. Vikram stopped beside Arian. You saw her, didn't you? Arian didn't pretend. Yes. Vikram sighed, alive. Arian shook his head, something else. They didn't speak after that. Because some truths don't need words. That night, the survivors reached an abandoned town far from Ravenfall. No screens, no signals, just darkness and stars. People tried to sleep. Most couldn't. Arian sat alone near a dying fire, staring into the flames. Every crackle reminded him of screams. Every shadow looked like movement. Then the sound came. Slow clapping. Not loud. Not mocking. Almost respectful. Arian stood up. Show yourself, he said. The darkness shifted. Mira stepped into the firelight. She looked healthier than before, stronger. The dark lines beneath her skin glowed faintly, like veins filled with moonlight. The fire didn't scare her. It bent away from her. You shouldn't be here, Arian whispered. Mira smiled sadly. Neither should you. They sat opposite each other. Two people. Two worlds. I didn't come to hurt you, Mira said. I came to say goodbye. Arian swallowed. You're not human anymore. Mira looked at her hands. I'm not what I was, but I'm not what they wanted either. She looked up. You destroyed the system. The streams are gone. Arian nodded. The world stopped watching. Mira shook her head gently. No, she said. The world just found new screens. She raised her hand. Arian's phone buzzed in his pocket. No network. No signal. Yet the screen lit up. News clips played automatically. Wars. Murders. Disasters. People watching. Commenting. Scrolling. Mira's voice was calm. Ravenfall scared them, she said, but fear fades, curiosity doesn't. Arian felt cold, so this was pointless. No, Mira replied softly, it was honest. Mira stood and looked toward the forest. I can feel them, she said, the infected, the animals, they're changing. Into what? Arian asked. Mira smiled. Into us, she said, but without lies. Arian stood too. Then I have to stop you. Mira stepped closer. You can't. Why not? Arian asked. She touched his chest lightly. Because you understand. Arian closed his eyes. He did. He remembered every time he had watched violence on a screen and felt something, fear, excitement, relief that it wasn't him. He remembered scrolling. Enjoying. Doing nothing. You won't attack the world, Arian said quietly. No, Mira replied, the world will invite us. She leaned in and kissed his forehead. Not desperate. Not romantic. Final. People don't hate horror, Mira whispered. They hate being honest about loving it. She stepped back into the darkness. The forest moved. Shadows followed her. Hundreds of eyes opened silently. Watching Arian. Waiting. Then they were gone. Morning came. Birds sang again. The survivors woke up, believing the worst was over. Aryan stood at the edge of the camp, staring at the rising sun. Vikram joined him. What now? Aryan answered honestly. Now we pretend everything is fine. Vikram frowned. Pretend. Aryan nodded slowly. Because that's what humans do best. He turned away. Behind him, far beyond Ravenfall, something new was learning how to smile. And somewhere in the world, someone pressed play. End of book. Blackheart final note, author's truths. The zombies were never the real horror.